Hey everybody, welcome back to Champ & Sons and our Planet Coaster series as we zip around the park right now in this small little section today. Keep in mind this was recorded from a live stream over on Twitch at Champ & Sons, so check out over there. I try to do it every Saturday, as often as we can, as time allows to get stuff like that done. So what we're doing here is we're going to be putting in a new section with a couple of rides, one flat ride and one coaster. Now the flat ride, it's really just to kind of fill in this area right here, and this little, the overpower as it's called, it actually I think works out fairly well for what we need it to be. It does fill the space. We do put in quite a long queue line into it, but in the grand scheme of things, I'm okay with that. You know, it's not something that bothers me too much about it. So we did get that ride put in, and now this is just a small little down area that I'm keeping here just to try and see if we can, you know, not kind of just fill in this space. We are putting in a roller coaster, but you can't just have one roller coaster, not going to take up that whole area, right? So what I needed to do is kind of get stuff planned out for where it's going to go, and then take a look at the kind of coaster that we're going to be putting into it here today. The main inspiration behind this coaster is going to be, I don't know if any of y'all have ever seen it, but the Poltergeist at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas. It's a fairly intense launch coaster. When it did have the shoulder restraints, it would kick the crap out of you, man. It would feel like you just got done with a boxing match. But they have since moved to lap restraints, which makes it a little bit better of a ride to go on, I will admit. It is one of my more favorite rides to go on too. So this is kind of the main inspiration. I think it fits into this area really well. Plus the look of it when you come into the park, seeing this little looping area and this kind of whole ride in general put in, I think it looks pretty good for what we were going for. And the inspiration for this coaster, outside of it being, you know, hey, it's just the Poltergeist one. You know, one of the biggest things about it is one of my favorite movies growing up was Twister, right? Well, Twisters actually just came out last week, I think, based off the calendar, but it was one of the big inspirations for this ride. So that's kind of why we went with this one. Now, I know the screen is looking a little choppy, and I do apologize for that, but you got to keep in mind this stuff is sped up 800 times. So that's kind of why it's looking the way it does. So now, I mean, like I said, keep in mind this is probably what amounts to 6 hours of footage, if I had to guess. Maybe not quite that much. Maybe about 4.5 to 6 hours worth of footage crammed into what amounts to, what, 30 minutes? 25, 30 minutes. So yeah, I do apologize for some of the choppiness. It does happen here or there. But overall, I think it's not too shabby. What I might have to start doing, the longer the live streams goes, we're gonna have to just break up the camera section, just so it allows us for everything to flow through fairly smoothly. So, all right, so now the ride is basically done. So what I needed to figure out is going to be the entrance queue. Not just the entrance queue, but where's this ride going to exit? How's it going to get across over? And what is the overall area going to look like, right? So I put in a fairly decent size queue line, pretty famously cattle pin for the most part, around. And I think I left enough space there to be able to put in the decorations for the queue, so that way we made sure that there was enough space available. And so I think it really just comes out better and works a little bit better this way than it does if we'd gone with just an extremely long, tight queue, kind of preventing any kind of decorations from going in. Plus, I think it really works to fill the area in pretty decently. Now the exit is something a little bit different. We had to. I needed. I want to put a. I'm going to put in a gift shop, so we made sure to put that in a space for that, and then we're going to put in some additional buildings over there as well. Once again, kind of more of a space filler, and then we do put the bridge going across. One, kind of a little head chopper moment, but two, it's going to be a pretty cool looking view as you sit up there after you get off the ride and you watch this thing launch out from underneath you. So I think that works out pretty well. Now to connect it to the back half, dealing with the stupid plots of land, I really hated all that. We finally kind of got that worked out fairly well enough. So I think it turns out pretty good. As far as filling in some of the space and terrain painting, you're going to see that a lot of what we end up going with is going to be the concrete terrain paint. And mainly did that just because, one, it just does help fill in the area. But this would be a completely man-made section. This is not something that's going to be, natural or anything like that. Now, I put pathing kind of going further down along the side of that building just to allow for extra viewpoints. That's really about it. I wanted people to be able to see the coaster from a lot of different angles. So that's what kind of inspired that. Now, we are putting in some of the outline for some buildings here. They're not going to be too extravagant, highly detailed, or anything like that, but once again, it is kind of filling in the space and so forth. So you see us kind of working on the color scheming, and I said it was inspired by Twister, as there goes the title for it, as I checked the title on all the other ones. But this Twister, that's the coloring of it. That's why it's a gray and kind of like more or less like a tornado outside of. I might need to recolor it to have some more black color in it. The train car though is red, and the reason for the train car being red is going to be the Dodge Ram that drives through the house in the movie Twister. That's pretty much why. And then that picture you saw right there is a picture of, was it Aunt May or Aunt Meg's house from the movie Twister. So that's what the station is going to kind of look like. That we're kind of building here is going to be that house. Now, I don't like fully closed in stations. I've never been that big of a fan of them. Maybe it's just because being in Texas, we have a lot of heat, and unless you really want to power through with some of that AC, you generally are going to go with some of the more open ones, let some natural wind blow through. So that's what we're designing here when it comes to the station house. Or I guess the station is going to be the house that looked like Aunt Meg's house from the movie Twister. So that's kind of where we are at on this. I'm going to let it kind of play here from this point on out. I'll catch back up with y'all later in the video as we get ready for some of the POV of the actual ride, as once we kind of get it completed, and I will check in with y'all a little bit closer to that moment. So I'll see y'all then. Alright, I am back, and here we are doing some detailing work on the inside of this gift shop, getting everything placed. You know, it's a basic gift shop. It's, like I said, it's not too extravagant, right? And you've kind of seen some decorations go on throughout the area. I did do some work off camera in between the weeks of the live streams and filming these that you know, we filled in a lot of the blank space with some planters. One, I just figured we would have a lot of planters there. You know, it makes it look nicer. It's better than just a simple concrete pad and so forth. So that was kind of the biggest thing behind it. Now here we are putting in windows. I like having windows in the shops. It just makes me feel better, makes everything feel a little bit more open, so you can see it all on the inside. So this is just a basic gift shop design, nothing too strenuous to it. It's not anything that extravagant either. So that was kind of just the inspiration behind this. Let's just make something that looks pretty decent, but isn't going to be a hefty hit on the budget. You know what I mean? So now we're working on some of these final little decorations of the area, and there's still some other things to do. Like, don't get me wrong. We've got some more decorations to put in. We have done a lot of other work around the park, so I will show that off some at a later time. But for now, it was just kind of getting these buildings done. And I'll say this on the live stream, that crap took probably about 2.5 hours in reality. Yeah. So this is a basic building. I wanted it to be high for the area, but not so much that it kind of sticks out, you know, from everything else. It's one of those things, like, you want the roller coaster to be the focal point, not the building that surrounds it. So that's kind of what we did here, is made sure of that. Do add some basic decorations on there. It's not too extravagant or anything like that, but we do try to dress the building up some to make it look decent. You know what I mean? So that's what we are focusing on here for this one. Not really sure why the arches. It just made me feel like there should be arches as I was building it. Can't explain more than that to it, because that's really all there is to it, you know. Yeah, I'd like to think there's more, but there's not. Now this little section, you'll notice I cross over the boundary, the little border side there. That was done on purpose. I knew when I put in the layout for this thing, I was going to end up doing that. That was never really out of the cards, or out of the question, I guess you could say. So we did pretty much do that on purpose. And now it's just getting some more fixtures in for the windows. And I stick with a lot of concrete on these things. One, I do just like how the brighter color sticks out from the red brick. I think it just looks better personally. So that was kind of just legit the inspiration behind that. Not anything too intricate or extravagant. You know what I mean? So we are finishing up this area, and this area will pretty much be totally completed by the end of this episode. So I enjoy the way this thing has turned out. You know, it does look pretty good for an area. It feels pretty smooth. It's a smooth flowing one. A lot of places for people to sit, you know, places to get drinks and so forth like that. So I think this area turned out pretty damn good, based off my opinion. And then I thought about going another level up on the roof, but just decided, nah, it doesn't really need it at this point. It seems perfectly fine being just right there. There's no need to go too much higher. Once again, I didn't want it to stick out. Didn't want that to be a focal point. I wanted it to be the ride. So, like I said, just kind of finishing up some of the decoration in this area. Now we're going to get the little bridge built for the exit queue. And this one was kind of interesting with getting certain things placed, right? Because you need to have this thing supported properly. It's going to have people going across it, but at the same time, it's something that isn't going, you don't want it to be too much, right? You gotta also limit what you're doing here. So that was kind of what we did. That was the inspiration behind the way we designed it, just to be a decent looking bridge, nothing too major. We do have it, I do change it from that gravel path over to a wood path. Just kind of fits the aesthetic of the bridge going over, but I think it turns out pretty damn well, if you ask me, in my opinion. Now, I'm not going to lie, I am a little biased here, but hey, it makes me feel good. That's what matters the most, I think. So we've gotten this area pretty much going for the most part. We're getting the exit segment done, and I don't think we've built it yet, or maybe, no, we've not built it yet. And I don't even know if I think I do that on camera. I'm trying to remember. There's some stuff, you start building in Planet Coaster off camera. Sometimes it gets away from you. It happens. It happens to the best of us. But I do start putting in a little bit more decoration, and it will get the ride sign built up. And then we will get into the POV rides coming up here very quickly, so definitely stay tuned for that. Now, I started putting in the chain link fences just because I feel like safety purposes, you would have to have them. And so that's kind of why we have them over and in there. But then I get tired. I'm like, no, that just... Screw safety. I'm sorry. If you're an idiot and jump on the track when a coaster's launching at you at 70 miles an hour, well, you're an idiot and bad things are going to happen to you. So I decided to forget safety, go with the aesthetic look of it. So we stick ourselves here with the wood fence. So I do think it definitely does look better. So here we come with the ride sign. And then we are going to be having the POVs here in just a little bit. Let me see how much longer, actually. And it's only about 2 minutes away of film time. Covered about 6 hours worth. Actually, probably about 30 minutes worth of gameplay. But about 2 minutes is what we're looking at before the live action viewpoint of it. And here I'm just putting in some different color bricks just because a tornado is not going to be a single color. And I do put it at the, not so far the entrance directly into the ride, but once we kind of get into this area here, I do think it kind of brings it all together and makes it look just that much better. So taking some of these Theme Maker's Toolkit letters and putting them in, and that's when I noticed some of them are flipped backwards, so I got to switch them back around. It's just one of those fun things. So we're putting in the area. I put in a little area entrance, tornado alley, on these coming into it to kind of symbolize for the whole ride in and of itself. So I think it looks pretty decent in that realm. Now we're going to finish off with some lighting here before we get to the final ride throughs. So stay tuned for about 1 more minute and we will have the POV at night and during the day ride of the coaster. And I will let it off so y'all don't have to listen to me during that time. But I will see y'all in the next episode, or I'll catch y'all over on Twitch on the weekends. So everybody stay safe. Remember to hit that subscribe button if you haven't hit it already, and definitely hit that bell icon to be notified of all the uploads we do have here at Champ & Sons. And I will see y'all in the next episode, everybody. So, as I said, stay safe, and well, later, y'all.